October is the Anchorites Appreciate Arneson month. Dave Arneson was one of the 4 founders of the role-playing hobby, and each episode of this month I'll be tying in a topic that links in with Dave Arneson. You are listening to the Dragons Are Real podcast. My name is Pete Jones.
Hey Pete, Jason here. Thank you so much for that. I really enjoyed hearing your recap of Shadow of the Demon Lord, and I'm very happy I bought that on PDF. I'm looking forward to maybe playing it someday, and I'm looking forward to the Kickstarter they have right now. Was it Punk Apocalyptic or something like that? So you use a modified version of the same rules. But thank you again for the review. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Jason, it was a pleasure to do that review of Shadow of the Demon Lord. For any of those who don't know, Jason has a great podcast called Nerds RPG Variety Cast. I'll leave a link in the show notes. And like myself, Jason is also going to be involved in the Anchorites Appreciate Arneson month, so be sure to check his podcast out. Most role players are aware of the legacy that Gary Gygax had on the hobby in writing Dungeons and Dragons. Some will also be aware of Dave Arneson, who formulated the idea, although he never wrote it down, and Gygax tried to write down his thoughts. But the genesis of role-playing goes back a little bit further than that, to one Major David Wesley. He was in a group of wargamers, and they usually met and set up their battles opposite each other and played out the game. One time, though, he decided to get his wargaming group and try something a little bit different before they put their armies on the table. He got the 2 opposing leaders to meet and try and have a parley and play out what happened before the battle progressed. And then after that, they would go on to the battle. He did this for a few sessions before inviting one Dave Arneson. Dave Arneson really embraced this, and he began running rings around Major Wesley and the other players as he thought of novel ideas of how to outwit them, how to turn things to his advantage. And so Major David Wesley is probably the first proper GM, although he may not have known it at the time. Dave Arneson took this idea after Wesley left, and he formed his own background from Braunstein, which was the one that Wesley had created, and so Blackmore was born. So in this episode, it's going to be entitled That One Player. In honour of the way Arneson ran rings around people, we're going to talk about that one player that brings something to the game that elevates everybody else in the game, including the GM. And the one player I'm talking about is the one that is prepared to make decisions, is prepared to do things, and quite often to immerse himself in the whole setting. I have a player like that. Whichever game he's playing, he will really immerse himself in the role that he has declared. He will play the role to the best of his ability, and he won't metagame. He will decide what the character would do, not what he as a player should do. And it often lands him in more trouble than anything else. But what's good about it is the other players feed off it. They will often tut and turn their eyes up because of what he is doing. But as he says, my character would do that. So that is what I'm doing. It might be irrational to us as metagamers, but that is what the character is doing. And that is the sort of thing that you want as a GM, because those moments will really bring something to the game. And it's something as a GM you can feed off. And I like to reward the player that does something like that. A reward for their role-playing, a reward for their ideas. Yes, something they may be doing could lead to death, but is death the best option for rewarding them? Probably not. And I think that's where Arneson got his rules from, or his lack of rules. The players would decide what they want to do, and Arneson would make a judgment on what happened. The characters that played in Arneson's game said they didn't have a character sheet, they didn't have any stats, that they had a character which they defined, and they told Arneson what they wanted to do. And Arneson would decide, and he may roll some dice. Nobody knew what they were rolling dice for or what the result was going to be. But Arneson took that and ran with it. And I think in games, sometimes we become too bogged down in the system. I've talked before about making endless perception rolls to see if we can see something, or notice rolls. Is it needed? Reward the player. If they're doing something that is different or is active, proactive, then reward them. And that one player will bring something to the game. And we should all attempt to be that one player, to drive the story forward, to be the character and not the player. So what does the rest of the Anchorites Appreciate Arneson month podcasts contain? There'll be an episode on rules, on rule light systems, another one about playing the game, one on an unsung hero of the hobby, in my opinion. And in the final episode of this quintet of episodes for AAA month I will design a rules light system, start to finish, give my reasons and my design ethos behind it, and publish it as a zine. So that's it for this episode. Thank you for listening. You have been listening to the Dragons Are Real podcast. My name is Pete Jones. You can follow me on my website at petejones.neocities.org or over my blog at dragonsarealpodcast.tumblr.com. I'm also very active on the OSR Anchorites on Audio Dungeon Discord. The opening music is from Kevin MacLeod, called Killers. The closing music, also by Kevin MacLeod, is Fretless.